Well, it's a joy every week. We get to talk baseball with our MLB Insider. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Divish, all brought to you by Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley, proudly serving the community since 1941, located in Tacoma's historic Proctor District. They have been family-owned and operated for 40 years, delivering top-notch customer service and a unique 12-lane experience. Check them out at chaletbowl.com. All right, before we get to the Mariners, let's get an update on the Havre North Stars. Where are we at? Are we through tryouts? And
Yeah,
we've got the team formed.
Yeah, we got tryouts. The team's formed. I mean, they were pretty much, tryouts were more just to kind of determine how many kids we are going to have out for both teams. We have two teams in the program. And so they're just trying to dictate who's all going to be out and go from there. But like the A team or the older kids team, we pretty much knew because we've been having workouts for quite a while now.
Okay. And we got when do we got our first game?
April 27th, supposedly, is when we're supposed to have the first game.
Supposedly. Are you working at your buddy's furniture store today?
Yeah, you can hear the doorbell. I was supposed to work yesterday, but there was track meet yesterday, so I was watching track, and so today I'm helping out.
Okay, so we're taking you away from your buddy's job. Do you have to, does he dock this from your pay?
No, not really. I mean, we have other people working today too, so I can just kind of do this. I'm not very good at this. Let's be honest.
I bet. Can we get you in action? Is there a way that we could actually see you trying to sell furniture to somebody?
No, and
pay much money.
My buddy Ryan's trying to get me to do another commercial like we did with that Dumb and Dumber commercial, and I'm just like, no.
That was good though. That was a good commercial.
Yeah. He wants to do the Chris Farley where he lights the Tommy Boy thing where they're talking to the guy and he lights the toy on fire and everything like that.
Yeah.
And the David Spade character just looking exasperated.
Yeah, it's perfect.
I don't know. We'll see.
You're gonna start having to get royalties off all this acting that you're doing.
Yeah.
Because you're natural at it. A natural grump.
So, yeah, I mean I'll get my SAG card, my Screen Actors Guild card, and
Let me ask you. They lose last night as we record this here on a Wednesday. Tuesday they lose the opener to the Reds. I want to start with Castillo for a second. Does he seem a little off to you this year at all?
I would say off. I still just think hasn't had a great feel for some of his off-speed pitches at times. And I think that's the big difference. And part of it was too, he went away from his changeup for quite a while, and then he's trying to bring it back. And I think, just the location. I think maybe in the past he was able to get away with more mistakes. But you look at that, and you look at last night though. That home run is a home run in one park.
Right.
That park. I mean, that park is kind of a joke as it is. And so, give up the one homer. I mean, if that's caught, you're playing at T-Mobile, you're playing somewhere else, and that's caught, they probably win that game. I felt like probably the bigger issue other than Castillo was that, you get the 4, you didn't add. You had some guys on the ropes you didn't add. Mm-hmm. They had, Cal was up with bases loaded. They had a ton of opportunities where they really probably should have scored 6-7 runs, and they didn't do that. Castillo is Castillo. I don't think he's going to be the dominant guy that he was maybe 2 years ago.
So
maybe
do you see
maybe there's another gear there?
Yeah.
But I mean, the velo's down 1 mile per hour. I think
it feels like it. Yeah. I mean, I think it shows that too. But it just doesn't. It doesn't quite look the same. And listen, what is he? 33.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess it happens. I mean, that happens to people. I don't know.
I mean,
he doesn't look like the same guy.
Sometimes the velo, everybody makes a big deal about the velo, but it's also the spin rate, the movement profile. I just don't think he's locating as well. We saw in the one start preview, or I think it was 2 starts ago, where he locates a little bit better and he stays on the edges.
Yeah.
But what happens is his ball has a lot of natural movement, and I don't think he always understands how much it's going to move.
He doesn't know where it's going, does he?
I mean, well, he does, but you look at how they showed that one sinker he threw in San Francisco where it just had so much movement, where it starts in the middle of the plate and almost hits the guy in the back of the knee. You don't know how you can really. Sometimes you just don't really know what it's going to do. And I think that's part of it, and I think too, he fell behind a little bit last night. because he didn't get some calls, and maybe a little amped up pitching in Cincinnati again as well. So I in the list of problems that the Mariners have, I don't think Luis Castillo ranks really high.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering. Well, we'll save that for later as we get to the deadline, because I do still wonder if there's any chance that they would ever contemplate moving him at all.
We still got the no trade clause through this season.
Oh, it goes all the way through this season. It's the off season they can move him without.
Once the season's over,
that's right. Okay. And I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, he amped up. He's playing there. It was, funny when you look back at that trade. I did that yesterday. I mean, just what a, you want trades. Both teams want to work out. You want to benefit from the trade, but clearly Seattle's benefited a hell of a lot more than the Reds. I mean, the day that he makes his start, they send Marte back down. And it just you look at that trade, it just completely worked out there in Seattle's favor. We don't give enough praise to them sometimes, and I get that, but certainly with that trade, that benefited them more than it benefited the other.
That worked out. I mean, they looked at the pieces that they gave up, and they realized that these didn't fit, or Jerry could be criticized for a lot of his trades and things he's done wrong, but they've also walked away from prospects that they thought cooked. And remember Luis Gohara, Alex, what's that guy's name? Alex.
Jackson.
Alex Jackson. They walked away from some of these guys when they knew they were done. And sometimes that's a big part of the process is realizing to self-scout players that just don't fit or aren't what you think they are supposed to be, and you move on from them and try to capitalize when they're on the highest. I mean, there are players like that currently in this number one farm system that have flaws that they know internally and that they'll probably move on from at some point and try to package in a deal when they have the highest value.
Hey, speaking of velocity, and something that has, I think, early on in the season probably has been a concern has been Bryce Miller. Mm-hmm. Bryce Miller's 0-2. He's got an ERA of 4.50. But what that doesn't concern me as much as the way that he's talking after games about the soreness in his arm. Now, I get it. Every one of these guys has soreness. They're pitchers. Everybody deals with it. But it is a combination of him talking about it. He's not particularly pitched all that well, not terrible. His velocity is down. Is this something that we need to keep an eye on and be mindful of, that the organization does too, with him moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. He went through it a little bit, I think, his first year, and just at times just don't feel good. It's what Scott Service called soggy, but kind of dead arm. It feels fatigued. It's sore. It doesn't bounce back as quickly. But if they thought it was structural to the point where it's ligament or something like that, then he'd be shut down. They're not going to pitch it. So I think that's muscular soreness or whatever. That bicep gets sore sometimes. Part of it was too and I think there was some talk about it during spring that he came out. He was pumping 98 during spring during bullpens. Came out a little hot, and didn't build up maybe the way they wanted. I don't know, but it's a concern because he's talked about it before, how hittable he is at 94 versus how much he stays off the barrel at 95 and above. And so I think that's part of it as well. They'll find a way to get his arm strength back, whether it's sometimes it's throwing more to keep your arm active instead of just not throwing, and sometimes it's giving him a rest. But that's why I think the big thing is just days at a time in between. They're going to try and get that extra day whenever they can for him, because I think that's important.
But that red flag that happened this early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, but
after spring and an off season and all that.
Wu had it last year. He had the forearm soreness or inflammation. You get it, forearm, shoulder. I think part of it is these guys are working on massive. These guys are extending their overall workloads every season, and I think sometimes they think it's going to bounce back or they're going to do exactly what they did the year before, but it's not the same because of how much he threw. Wu dealt with it. Kirby, we're seeing, is dealing with it. Like, these guys are pushing their overall workload to limits to places they've never been before, and there are going to be consequences. They're not massive and they're not season ending, but you have to be aware of what you've done. And I think the Mariners have been relatively smart with that. To me, my biggest thing, we were talking about this last night because I saw some people say, "Oh, they need to call up Logan Evans and do this for this next start." they shouldn't have to be. They shouldn't be. They shouldn't have been like playing AAA musical chairs with this starter. They should have just kept Emerson Hancock in the rotation and then sent Taylor Saucedo down, which they ultimately did anyways, and used his spot in the bullpen to cycle through all those quad A guys. I feel like Luis F. Castillo, and I joke with somebody, the F stands for effing mid-level, shouldn't have been starting multiple games for them.
But why do you think they did that? We talked a lot about that. Jim and I were discussing when they made the move, and Jim was like, I just don't get it. I don't understand what they're doing. It's one start. I mean, this is a guy that they've talked about for years about being could be a fifth starter in everyone's rotation. He had one bad outing, and it's like they saw that one bad outing, like, no, we're done. We're throwing him away. Let's bring up somebody who. I can't remember what was when he pitched. Was that how many years had it been? I can't even remember with Luis F. Castillo.
He's never been in the big leagues, had he?
Right? Yeah, had he never made a big league start? And I just was a head scratcher to me for an organization that prides itself on their starting pitching and having all this background and knowledge of these guys to give him one start and then pull the plug on it seemed odd.
Well, I knew like all the reasons why they needed to make a move after his outing. They needed to bring up a guy with length or whatever. But they and I thought, they brought up a lefty. They brought up Diaz because they were facing the Tigers, had a bunch of lefty bats pounding them. But I just felt like, changing your rotation and upsetting that dynamic. And then the moves you had to make to piece it all together. What is the highest upside of Luis F. Castillo versus the highest upside of Emerson Hancock in any given start? I just felt like it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. Maybe they had some information we didn't, right? Everything I knew was just basically they needed a fresh arm. They needed help. They wanted a lefty. They wanted to have the three lefties because of the situational aspect with the Tigers. But I just didn't think it was necessary. I thought, you could have sent down Saucedo, which they ultimately did, brought up the numerous guys and just keep cycling that bullpen spot out for whoever, and part of it was too is like they're some of their bullpen guys don't have options, but that's something you have to take into account. And I just felt like that was kind of a weird move because it's put them on the back burner a little bit, not the back burner, but just put them like scrambling mode all the time.
Trying to figure out what to do. And then does it not, I mean, maybe people don't care about his confidence. Now do you F around with his confidence? You F around with Emerson Hancock, a guy that you've probably told multiple times just how valuable you are to our team. I think about it. What was what was the line right after Kirby got hurt? It was, it was two things. One, this is why you don't trade Luis Castillo. And two was, well, this is why you have the depth with Emerson Hancock.
Yeah, I mean, like if he's good enough to be in your starting rotation on opening day and make a start, then you should probably get, like I said, I'm sorry, but there's no one bad outing or not. Like just shuffling the bullpen would have made more sense because you had multiple guys with options down there and you have more relievers than you do starters. And a starter has a pretty big effect. So I just felt like it was kind of a little odd. But, maybe there was information that they didn't share. I mean, that's one thing.
That's fair. That is fair.
Well, and that's one thing is, too, is like we don't, and I mean, for fans, it probably doesn't matter. And I know that in talking with some of the writers and stuff and even noticing it in spring, it's just Scott would tend to share his process and their thinking and all of this and what they really were trying to do or accomplish, but they were like, they had to change it all up. So, like Dan doesn't share, he doesn't share information. And then even like the information about Polanco, where he was out for a few days and they said it was his knee. And then they asked if it was his knee. He said, yeah, but really it was his side. That's a problem because nobody wants to be wrong.
Yeah. No, I get it. A sidebar. How many have you sold anything at the furniture store? Again, audience, he's working at his buddy's furniture store in Havre, Montana. Have you sold anything?
Yeah, I've sold lots of stuff. Just
you
not
have?
Recently. Yeah.
What's the last thing you've sold? What piece of furniture?
I sold my dad a couch and a love seat.
That doesn't count. Your family member doesn't count.
I think
What
I
have you sold a stranger?
Oh, I don't know. I sold a king size bed the other few days ago.
What's your pitch on the king size bed?
There's lots of room between you and your wife. I know.
That's gonna be the title of the show. There's lots of room between you and your wife. I'd love to see you get up right now. Do you need to go? Do you need to go make a sale? Okay.
No, because I don't know how to do like the one guy is like doing the measurements and stuff. Like I don't know how to do that. Like I pretty much just stand here and look stupid all the time.
You know, because you're probably an A-list celebrity there.
I've had to talk more about this decision to coach in the last 3 weeks. I mean, I had the TV up there one day. I had another story.
TV? Wait, does Havre have their own TV station?
No, it was Great Falls. I'm sure you can find it on the internet.
I'll find it. Oh, I will find it. You know what? I'm not going to play. I'm not going to do it because you don't want it to be played. You want it to be buried. I won't do it for you.
Well, what's funny is so the station that did it. You remember Lindsay Theory?
Sure.
She was back at that Great Falls station, and she wanted to come out and visit home, and rent one for a weekend, but she wanted to get paid for it. So she did a story on me, and like Alex Akita and those guys had to hate.
Wait a minute. So she did the story on why you've decided to take.
No, she back in the day. She did a story on me, kid from Havre going to cover the Mariners.
From Havre to heaven, wasn't it?
Yes. Now it's like from heaven to Havre. Like that was the so.
It's good. Listen, you know how I feel about your decision. It's a great decision. All right. Let's see. We've covered Castillo. We've covered Bryce Miller.
Talk about Williamson?
Yes, but hold off on Williamson for a second because there's a lot to unpack with Ben Williamson, and I'm going to go someplace that you're like, you have no idea where I'm going to go with him. Dan Wilson last night. He's starting to get some criticism with the bullpen. I can see it, and again, I don't think it's as bad as people like to make it out to be. I do, though, wonder. I'm curious about just one decision last night. It's been a weird season for Gregory Santos. A guy that throws that hard and is powerful, has 0 strikeouts, which is odd. What do you think his decision was? He had Vargas warming up when he thought he was going to pull him. When he thought he was going to pull Castillo, he decides not to use Vargas there. He ends up going with Snyder, I believe, and then eventually goes to Santos. Vargas has been an unbelievable welcome surprise here. It's a 2-run ball game. Why not go to him there? Or is it because, hey, we got him up, we don't want to get him up again? I guess I'm curious the decision to go with Santos. And as a manager, and you're going to have to do with this with the Havre North Stars. You have a pretty good sense right away. He does not have it. He could not throw his slider. It was all over the place. But yet he kept him in there. And he kept him in there, and he kept him in there. And then
3-batter minimum.
Well, that's right. You know what? I always fucking forget about the 3-batter minimum. It always fucking forget that goddamn rule. And it gets me every time.
Santos to start grabbing at his arm.
It gets me every time when I'm like, pull him from the game. I always fucking forget that. But you see where he doesn't have it, but it hasn't been sharp this year. The decision to put him in that situation, what do you think the thought process was?
I thought it was curious because in that situation, you just need somebody that throws strikes.
Yeah.
You're not looking for, you need strikes. And I mean, like they were coming off the off day. So it wasn't like, Vargas is, tired. I mean, they don't love getting him up twice, but at the same time, they talked about wanting to win every game and it's a battle every night. So I think that's, you get, I wouldn't say hypnotized, but you see all the reasons why Santos should be good. But part of the reason is he's got to throw strikes. He doesn't throw strikes. He doesn't know where it's going. He really doesn't have a clue where it's going. And he can't spot a slider at all, so he can't get a swing. He has no strikeouts on the season.
I know that's what it's amazing to me. I mean, it's just odd. I've never when you look at his stuff, and I know they were saying on the broadcast last night. Most of his stuff comes from his slider, but it's just like I don't mean to have this many appearances already, not have a single strikeout. I don't know. Last night he just did not look confident at all, and it was just a hard watch. It really was.
It's just
It is not fun. Not fun for anyone. All right, that's the negative. God, you know what? I'm gonna write it down on my palm of my hand. I always forget the 3-batter minimum every time.
But, I mean, you remember how much people beat up Scott on his bullpen decision making and everything else.
Yeah.
I think he did it pretty logically and empirically. Compared to I think Dan sometimes goes with gut more data.
All right,
what people want more.
Okay, it's not the Masters. Stop whispering in there. You have a lot of people.
Sorry.
A lot of people inside there. Stop it. Ben Williamson. First of all, those. I'm not going to go there. Never mind. The first hit, it was great. It was awesome.
His family was awesome.
Oh my God, the family, the buddies, everything there. It's not just the hit though, Divish. It's the other 2 at bats.
Yeah,
were great. Those were great at bats that he had. I think he went. What do you see? 7 or 8 pitches in each one. Yep. They were just good ABs. So I don't know. That was pretty awesome for him, especially on that day too.
Bradham was the cooler though. They bring in, gets a hit, and then put Brad out there and he cools it off.
Yeah. It was really cool though. It was cool to watch. What did you make of that decision to bring him up? Did you expect this to happen?
I just think it shows physically where Polanco's at, and that he's just not. And I think they also kind of looked around and said, we're giving runs away defensively.
Yeah.
And so maybe you need this. I mean, Polanco's DHing more and more, and I think they look at you've seen how good Rivas is defensively. All of a sudden, okay, we can do some different stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
Put Dylan Moore at second base if we want, or whatever. It gives them better defensive versatility, and I think they've played so many close games up until the Texas series. Every game was decided by a save. It was 1 or 2 runs. They were giving away runs defensively. They need to clean it up. I mean, some of the throws, it's like the throws home. Castillo should have backed up better last night, but I don't think the throw home was necessary from a Rose Ring. I just didn't think it was a good play. They've had some of that. They've played pretty sloppy at times.
Yeah.
And it's not. Say what you want.
But that play in particular, you're right. I think Garver could have played it better, but Castillo's got to be there. But he was lazy getting behind the play.
Did he really have a play?
No, but no, you're right. But that doesn't.
90 feet. Did the 90 feet help you hit the cutoff?
But yes, but I agree with you, 100%. But it doesn't excuse not getting back there.
No, he was just kind of lollygagging.
Yeah. Well, it was good to see him. It's good to see his getting that first hit, Jackie Robinson Day, to score his first run. Listen, if he doesn't have a lot of power, but yet he can contact the ball and hit it, fine, I'll take that. You know what? I know that position's a traditional power position, totally get it and all that, but you know what? Hitting the ball and making contact and getting on base is also a good thing too. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. All right. What are you going to sell today? What do you got on the docket?
We got some.
You got a lot of people in there, don't you?
They have a couch in here that's got a cooler built in.
Okay, let's put that. How much is that? Can I pay for that? Can I get a discount? And does this place ship?
We have no sales tax in Montana.
Okay, but can I get a discount?
Yeah, probably.
Can you ship it, or do I have to come pick it up?
I'll just put it in a truck, drive it out there sometime.
Okay, so I need something new for the basement. I need to get rid of our couch is too big for our basement. I need to get rid of it, and I need something smaller. So what's this couch that you have there? It's got a cooler built into the side of it?
Yeah, it's got all the magnetic charging for your phone and everything else. Got iPad holder.
Okay, this is perfect. Yeah, this is what
also,
I need.
What you need to do, though, honestly, that's cool, but you could just get a recliner. That way nobody can sit with you in the basement.
Well, that's what I want. That's what I want. See, we have a couch where you have 2 people have to sit too close together. I don't like that. I don't want that.
You just want something for you and the dogs.
Yes. God, yes. And I want my arcade game down there and a ping pong table, which I'm getting told I can't have, which is depressing. But that's what happens when you don't make the decisions in life. All right, there he is. It's our MLB insider, Ryan Divish. What's the furniture place in Havre?
Valley Furniture.
Valley
Furniture.
Valley Furniture in Havre, Montana. Listen, when you're driving through Montana, let's pull off the road. Let's stop in Havre, Montana. Let's say hi to Ryan Divish. He'll be working in there at the Valley Furniture store.
Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Wednesdays and Thursdays, and then head on over to the baseball field to go watch his Havre North Stars destroy the Great Fall Wildcats. Just making that up. What is Great Fall? What's Great Falls' team?
Chargers.
The Chargers. Who names the team the Chargers? That's not a baseball name, for God's sakes. Jesus, Great Falls. All right, MLB Insider Ryan Divish, all brought to you by Chalet Bowl. Again, located in Tacoma's historic Proctor District. Visit chaletbowl.com. All right, Div, we'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
Sounds good.